Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons. As the Minute Waltz fades away once more, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But also to welcome to the show 4 fine, talented, humorous exponents of this art of just a minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sue Perkins. And seated on my left, Liza Tarbuck and Graham Norton. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me keep the score. She's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed, and we're going to begin the show this week with Graham Norton. Graham, what a lovely subject. Can't wait to hear you go on this one. Things I do when nobody's looking. You have 60 seconds as usual, Graham, and your time starts now.
There are many things I do when no one's looking, but the one I'm going to share with you tonight is perhaps surprising: woodworking. I don't like to go on how much I enjoy working with wood, but I am boasting perhaps to say that my dovetail joints are second to none. Give me a plane, I'll smooth it. Oh yeah, touch it! You won't get a splinter. That's a magnificent stool, Graham. I'm often complimented by people passing through my small shop of work. Is that a word? Who knows? I enjoy sewing also in a straight line, which is difficult to do. Oh dear, I nearly ate the microphone. I also...
Oh, well done, Graham. You went for 49 seconds.
Woohoo!
But Sue, you challenged?
Yeah, hesitation.
Well, yes, it was. He ran out of steam, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, Sue, that's a correct challenge. So we give you a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject, of course, and you have 11 seconds still. Tell us something about things I do when nobody's looking, starting now.
When nobody's looking, I like to watch Graham sat at a stool, braddle out, delving into a piece of wood. Oak is his favourite, although any surface he's happy to master.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. And this occasion it was Sue Perkins. She's the only one to have scored in the first round. So she's in the lead, naturally. Liza.
It's very prosaic for you, isn't it, this?
So prosaic. It shows off my intelligence, doesn't it, too? Or my attempt at intelligence. All right. Liza, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is my roots.
Uh-oh.
There are 60 seconds starting now.
I should have gone and got my roots done about 6 weeks ago, but I'll be honest with you, I couldn't be bothered. So what I've done is gone to my local shop and found a product they make in France, hence me being a little bit overly blonde. I did a zigzag up my centre parting and then decided to take a left and then a right at my forehead, and what's resulted in is a couple of streaks that are neither kith nor kin to me, my mind, or anybody's vision of the brunette that I was approximately 2 months ago. I find the idea of going to a proper hairdresser's and having these things touched up really rather dull, whereas other women go to have their roots done and find it a fascinating experience. I have got better things to do, like sit at home and play Angry Birds. That's how boring I've become. But the other thing about my roots are very interesting. When I went into the family tree and found out that my great-great-grandfather... Great-great...
I know.
But what about the great-grandfather? What happened?
Yeah.
What did you find out?
Do you know what I found out? That my great-great... What an idiot. Grandfather was the last horse-drawn postman in the country.
I didn't know horses could draw.
Well, he was the master. Oh, you know what I mean.
Yes.
Dragged by a horse.
Right.
He was dragged through the streets of Liverpool by a horse.
Horse, wow.
Every morning with a load of letters.
Yeah.
Can we get back to playing just a minute?
Yes.
Sorry.
Lisa?
10 points.
Wonderful, yes. You started with the subject, you finished with it, It doesn't often happen. You get a point for speaking where the whistle went and another point for not being
And
interrupted.
a holiday in Barbados.
And so you have 2 points, so equal is Sue in the lead. And who's going to begin the next round? Paul, we're with you. London's finest sight. Tell us something about that subject in this game, Paul, starting now.
It has sometimes been said that the finest view in London can be seen from the National Theatre, because from there you cannot see the building. You are standing behind. I was once thinking that perhaps one of the most beautiful views in London is undoubtedly when you look down the Thames. If you go up, ever get so lucky as to go up into Canary Wharf, the top of that town.
Sue challenge.
Repetition of go up.
Go up,
Oh,
yes,
yes.
yes, right. So, Sue, you had a correct challenge. You've got 43 seconds available still. London's finest sight starting now.
London's finest sight, in my opinion, is viewed from Waterloo Bridge at dusk, and then you get the full panorama of the Thames. You also see the illumination of the London Eye, Britain's slowest and most boring wagon wheel. It's also true to say you can just about glimpse Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament and watch the undulating brown foam of the dirtiest river in this proud nation.
Paul Challis.
I don't think the Thames is particularly dirty now. I think it's been cleaned up over the years.
It has been cleaned up. but-
Has it?
Didn't they catch salmon in the House of Commons or something?
Yes, yes,
exploited
no, that's the thing.
house
They say, oh, it's very clean. Fish swim in it now. But if you
seen
catch one, you mustn't eat it.
Yeah. Well, the fish live off bicycles now, they've learnt to.
But it was, what she said was the dirtiest river in this country.
I don't think it is.
Well, we don't know, do we? I mean, there could be...
Right, let somebody out now to test.
Well-
we need this verified.
Well, this is probably incredibly dull, but about 2 days ago there was a story about the River Wandle in Surrey had a load of chemicals dumped into it.
All
So
right.
that must be the dirtiest river.
Did
at the
you
moment.
do
my
that
sister.
deliberately? Because
Yes,
you knew.
I did. I'm that keen to win, I don't care. I polluted the environment. Someone open a window.
Paul, we've proved your point.
Yes.
17 seconds. London's finest sight starting now.
3:30 in the morning, Alan Titchmarsh with a bottle of gin in his hand, trying to find his way off Trafalgar Square and looking around him. No, of course, he's not like that at all. He's a wonderful man. One of the finest sights in London is to see this magnificent gardener walk into the Chelsea Flower Show and say, I'm completely drunk. No, that's not true. What he does is
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, got that extra point for doing so. He's equal with Lisa in second place. Sue's just in the lead, one ahead. Graham, we haven't got any scores yet, but now's your chance.
Yes.
We want you to begin the next round. The subject is the school disco. 60 seconds starting now.
In my school, we had an annual disco, and I'm not making this up, to celebrate the potato harvest. It was called the Spud Hop. Truly. It was as grim as it sounds. It was in the McCutcheon Memorial Hall, a brick-built affair.
Sue
Oh, a
challenge.
bit of hesitation.
He did hesitate.
I
yes.
did.
Sue, you have a correct challenge, and you have 37 seconds to tell us something about the school disco starting now.
The school disco is the best way to realise that you are never going to be the most beautiful flower in the world. And thus it came to pass, age 13, as all the boys and girls merrily danced around one another, doing whatever it was, the moshing, diving, dancing and general divering.
Graham challenge.
A repetition of dancing.
Yeah, they were dancing around to each other. Right, Graham, you got it back again. 19 seconds, Graham. The school disco starting now.
Hey ho, silver lining, and I would run onto the sprung dance floor, my brown corduroy flares flapping around a thin young ankle. I adored la danse, and so would burn calories for many hours. It didn't really matter what record was playing.
So Graham Norton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now equal with Lisa Tarbuck and Paul Merton in second place, and they are just 2 points behind Sue Perkins, who's in the lead. And Lisa, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is 5 uses of the banana.
This is going to be a very quick round.
Wow.
I'm ashamed of you.
I just hope we never get to number 5.
Yeah.
Lisa, 5 uses of the banana. And you have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
The banana is absolutely packed with vitamins, and the uses for it are extraordinary. One, of course, if you were an A&E nurse, would be unmentionable in this fine hall.
If that's number one, what are the other four going to be like?
Oh, we've got medical already. Sue, you had a...
Hesitation.
Yeah, hesitation, yes.
I knew what was coming.
46. With the use of the banana.
It's just funny, isn't it? Why?
46 seconds, Sue. 5 uses of the bananas, starting now.
I was going to say you're asking the wrong person, but of course I know many uses for a banana. It's like an ersatz chamois leather. You just turn it inside out once you've finished eating it and use it to buff your car to a beautiful gleaming shine.
Graham challenge.
Never do that.
It works on
It's a
yellow
long
cars.
story about how I know. But seriously, never do that.
Graham, correct challenge.
Oh, yes, okay.
And you have 34 seconds. 5 uses of the banana, starting now.
Okay, let's begin quite simply. The first use that comes to mind is to use the banana as an erstwhile microphone when practicing to audition for The Voice.
Sue, challenge.
That's the first thing that comes to mind? What happened to eating it?
Yes, Sue, it is.
You want to use it as an erstwhile microphone?
Yes. Yes.
And that's the first thing that comes to
That was
mind.
the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah. And nobody can prove any different.
So I suppose I have to give you the benefit of the doubt. Do you like eating them at all?
No. Just speaking into them going, is this on? Is this on? Is this on?
1, 2, 1, 2.
Testing.
Right, 19 seconds. We're still with you, Graham. 5 uses of the banana, starting now.
When watching the Oscars, it is pretty obvious that you need the banana in order to give your fake acceptance speech.
All challenge.
I think it was hesitation.
I think that was, but you don't need a banana to give your hesitation speech at the Oscars.
You do if you're King Kong.
It makes it more real, Nicholas.
Makes it
Everybody walks out to receive their honour, and they've got a banana there, and they solemnly peel it like that, and they say, thank you very much, I've really enjoyed it.
What is your obsession about eating bananas, Nicholas?
Well, Lisa's
waste of
already said they're
perfectly
very
microphone.
nourishing, and they're full of potassium, they're very good for you.
They are.
So, I don't know where we were in the show.
I didn't hesitate, that's all I know.
All right, you've got the benefit of the doubt. 8 seconds, 5 uses of the banana, starting now.
The third use is to lure...
Sue challenge.
repetition of use. Its uses.
Oh.
Yeah, she's right.
I know it's Radio 4, but you bitch.
Yeah, I can suck that up.
If he had a banana now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He'd be saying that through it. Yeah.
The word on the card is uses, so well listened to. You have 6 seconds. You tell us something about 5 uses of the banana, starting now.
It's an ineffective boost.
Sorry.
Why?
It was the classic hesitation. It was a lie. I just fancied it.
She fancied it, I don't know what.
Well, I've told her she can't have it.
5 seconds, 5 uses of the banana, starting now.
OK, you might not want to use it on the bonnet of a vehicle, but having said that, if you're interested in surgery...
Lisa challenge.
She said bonnet at the very beginning
That's
when
right.
you were cleaning the car.
I can't get enough
Or
bonnet.
did you?
All right, Lisa, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank-
You have half a second, 5 uses of the banana, starting now.
There are no bones in a banana.
So, Lisa Tarbuck was then speaking as a whistle when gained an extra point, and she's still in 3rd place, just behind Graham Norton. Sue Perkins is in the lead. Paul's alongside Lisa. Sue, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is the credit crunch. Very topical. But it's now 60 seconds, starting now.
People often wonder who caused the credit crunch. Let me answer that immediately. Bankers. There was once a long weekend where said people sat round and thought, how can we make more money? We're fed up with the traditional manner in which we procure funds. I know, let's package debt. Nasty, toxic stuff that it is, and then we can sell it on to investors. This was around about 5-6 years ago, and it got pretty big, until, of course, interest rates started to rise in America.
Graham challenge.
Oh, my head hurts. This is just... I was listening for a while, but... Jeremy, the World at One was on a minute ago.
So what is your challenge when the rules are just a minute?
Oh, a deviation from light entertainment.
Oh. Well, I think that's a very good challenge. But if I give you the subject, which you'll get with an extra point as well, it means that you've still got the subject. You tell us something about...
I won't have it for long, let me all know that.
And you have 29 seconds now. You tell us something about the credit crunch starting now.
The credit crunch, or as it should be probably be called.
Susan.
Hesitation. Now, can I go back to my treatise on the credit crunch? I've got lots more interesting things to say.
All right, Sue, we'll give you a bonus point for that, but you don't get the subject because it's still with Graham.
Fairness, I did sort of crumble and stop speaking. And also, I now feel I do want to know more about the credit crunch. So,
Well, I've got loads of facts that I'm ready to lay on
All
you
right,
right
so
now.
Sue, you've earned your point. You have 25 seconds. Tell us more about the credit crunch starting now.
It was a tedious domino affair. Paribas went first, Lehman Brothers, RBS, Northern Rock, the list is endless. Ultimately, we bailed them out, and yet we get the blame. And look around us as libraries are getting closed and small charities...
Graham challenge.
I was wrong. I really... I thought I could, and then I just couldn't.
Well, she wasn't doing deviating, hesitating, or repeating anything.
I was just boring the living cack out of myself.
I know, but Graham lightened the whole situation. We enjoyed your interruption, Graham, so give him a bonus point for that. Sue, you still got the subject. 13 seconds, the credit crunch, starting now.
I don't know anything about it, OK? I just make it up. But Robert Peston is hot in a kind of weird way, and I don't know why I've said that. It'll come back and bite me. But it's the intensity, the feral eyes, as he contemplates yet another hike in some unmentionable fiscal monetary thing that I don't understand.
Well, Sue Perkins was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point has increased. She's one ahead of Graham Norton, and she's 3 or 4 ahead of Liza Tarbuck and Paul Merton, who are equal in third place. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. Noisy neighbours. That's the subject. 60 seconds, starting now.
I recall an old Ronnie Corbett joke that said my grandfather was killed at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. He wasn't involved. He was camping nearby and went over to complain about the noise. Noisy neighbours. Alex Ferguson, owner...
Lisa Chance.
Slight old stumble there.
Yeah, hesitation. Right, Lisa? You've got 50 seconds. You tell us something about noisy neighbours, starting now.
Teenage parties that go on for days have been known to drive me to distraction, and I am not above going next door and asking to speak to said party girl. I have done it to my lovely 3 children.
Sue Chance.
Slight hesitation.
There was a hesitation there.
Couldn't work out whether I'd said party twice. I think I had.
Yes.
No, it stays in your mind.
Yeah,
doesn't
no.
it?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Just stays.
Yes, very different
All this
places.
quiet reminiscing.
Very
I mean, that's probably the hardest bit of the game.
Really difficult.
You don't know how hard this is.
I'm sorry. I pity us.
We've all gone mad.
And if anybody wants to send us in a translation of what we've been talking about, we'll give you the prize. Right, 33 seconds for you, Sue, on noisy neighbours, starting now.
About a year ago, my noisy neighbours staged a rave/garage party, and I went round there to complain about the fearful din. What I didn't realise was I hadn't put any clothes on. So there I stood with a load of 18-year-olds laughing at my haggard, pale frame. "Can't you keep it down?" I said. "Can't you put some clothes on?" they said.
Paul Chance.
2 can't use.
Two can't choose, yes. And loud ones at that.
Well, there's music going on.
9 seconds, Paul. Noisy neighbours, starting now.
At first, I didn't realise what the digging sound was. It sounded like shovel going into earth, but I couldn't be sure. It was as I peered through the next-door window, I suddenly saw the most glorious sight. An orgy with Nicholas...
So I was saved by the whistle, was I?
Yes.
Right, so Paul Merton was speaking of the whistle. Went, gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's alongside Lisa Tarbuck still. They're training Graham Norton and Sue Perkins in that order. Sue's in the lead. And Graham, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is how to impress an interviewer. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Always begin your responses by saying, "What an interesting question." That really cheers up an interviewer. Don't, however, say, "How do you know that?" when, in fact, the story you're being asked about appears in the autobiography you are promoting at the time. You'd be surprised how often that happens. But because I haven't read the book either, I'm at a loss to tell them how I know...
Lisa, challenge.
Three hows.
Three hows.
All right.
All right.
I'd let two go.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Third one.
Hang on. No. How is on the subject? How is in the subject? How to impress an interviewer?
How to impress an interviewer.
Yeah, what Paul said. Yeah.
Don't look at my roots, man.
I must say,
so
this show
sorry. I thought I was
does
really
bring
clever.
out all the best in everybody, doesn't it? So, Graham, an incorrect challenge. 31 seconds still to carry on with how to impress an interviewer starting now.
Another great way to impress an interviewer is to lean forward and stroke their knee and say, "Gosh, your body appears to be rock hard. Is there a regime you could share with me after the show?" And then give them an envelope full of cash. I'm just throwing these ideas out there because I'll have a new season in the autumn and you never know what might happen. Other great ways to impress an interviewer are to...
Paul challenge.
There was hesitation.
There really
Was
was.
a hesitation there, yes.
Nay, exhaustion.
And Paul, you've got in with half a second to go.
Now I feel a fool.
But it was a correct challenge. So, Paul,
impressive.
half a second. How to impress an interviewer starting now.
You have got rock hard knees, haven't you?
Right. So Paul was speaking as it was when, Paul Merton, and he's moved forward. It's all sort of in sequence now. It's Sue Perkins, Graham Norton, Paul Merton, and Lisa Tarbuck in that order. 1 point separating each of them. Right. Are you interested? No, you did. Lisa, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is blue sky thinking. Tell us something about that delightful subject in this game, starting now.
Thinking in a blue sky thinking kind of way is meant to conjure up lying in a meadow and where you look at the azure of the sky and let your mind ruminate on thoughts that you don't generally have the time to really explore.
Sue challenge.
The repetition of thoughts?
Was it? Can we remember?
Have I
as
gone
far back
mad?
as that?
Don't know. I don't remember.
I think I'm still in the credit crunch. Let me get back to that. Good night.
Lisa, another point to you. 44 seconds. Blue sky thinking starting now.
I'm aware of various suits and executives in positions of great power who need to tick boxes. So when they suggest, let's have a little bit of blue sky thinking, it's that they want to get creative, and that's the way that they explain it to you. Pull out the plugs. Let's kick this kitten round till we find a little bit of a good idea. Let's batter the baby.
That's an animal welfare issue.
Yeah, we can't be encouraging animal cruelty.
I don't find that I'm creative when I've seen a kitten being
I don't
kicked
know why I
around.
said it.
You know, I think people in the workplace rarely do their best thinking when a kitten is being kicked around the room.
Just a mutilated
And I
cat
would
on the
hardly
floor.
call that blue sky thinking.
No.
So, Graham, a correct challenge, and there are 22
I'm sorry.
seconds available. Blue sky thinking starting now.
Sometimes when you get a subject on just a minute, it's terribly hard to imagine how you could possibly fill 60 seconds talking about it. But with blue sky thinking, it's... Oops.
Well, wow.
So, Lisa, what was your challenge?
It wasn't me.
Your light came on, darling.
Oh, well, it's spy instead of sky.
It's deviation from sense.
Yeah.
Blue
By
spy.
thinking.
Very theatrical.
It was very theatrical. Yes, it was a deviation. Right. 14 seconds. Back with you,
Oh, no.
Lisa. Blue sky thinking starting now.
It's an interesting thought to go...
Graham, your challenge first.
Repetition of thought.
Oh!
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
fair
You-
dues.
yes,
Hands up.
Yes. So
Baby
Graham is
hands
back
out.
with you. 11 seconds. Blue sky thinking starting now.
Let the gods rejoice that I've got this subject back, because I've a lot to tell you about it. Blue sky thinking. You heard me. Sky thinking. Blue sky thinking. That's what we're here to talk about. Oh, yeah.
Well, Graham Norton was again speaking as the whistle went, has moved forward, and he's now in the lead. 1 ahead of Sue Perkins and 3 ahead of Liza Tarbuck and Paul Merton, in that order. Oh, it's the final round, I've been told. Oh. We've no more time. Sue, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is alternative therapies. 60 seconds starting now.
Nothing excites me more than spending good, hard-earned cash on a woman whose name I can't pronounce crawling over my back, wearing nothing but clogs. Yes, it's probably the latest in deep tissue massage. I'm a sucker for it, whether it's acupuncture or homeopathy. That's what I want, a sugar-coated tablet that's a distillant of a snake bite that someone received 1,000 years ago. Where's my purse? I'm buying into that right now. The hushed tones, the smell of that disgusting oil-burning patchouli, I think it is, the flap of a dirty lab coat, and you know you're home. I don't want you to be qualified. I want you to do a perverse head...
Paul challenge.
It's a shame, but it was I want.
I want, yes, I'm afraid there was. Sue, you went for 53 seconds. Oh. Right. And Paul, there are 7 seconds left. Ooh. And your time starts now.
Alternative therapies, I can talk about that in 7 seconds. I can even speak.
Lisa challenge.
I can.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gloves off the end, isn't it? Yeah. Oh.
So, Lisa, you've got him with 3 seconds to go on alternative therapies starting now.
In my garage, I've got a large piece of hose pipe and some Vaseline.
Well, I'm now going to give you the final score. And because they've all been so wonderful and funny and lovely, it is the most amazing result, which is true, because you've got 3 of them, Liza Tarbuck, Sue Perkins and Paul Merton, equal in second place, but only 1 point ahead is Graham Norton. Well, we do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute, and it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Sue Perkins, Liza Tarbuck and Graham Norton. I thank Sharon Leonard, who helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle most delicately when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to this lovely, warm, spontaneous audience here, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, and tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute! Yay! Welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 talented and humorous performers who are going to show their skill as they speak for just a minute on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Tony Hawks and Alun Cochrane, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Kevin Eldon. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show with Tony Hawks, my preparations for Rio 2016. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I have already started preparing for Rio 2016. Only this morning I bought myself a razor and I've given myself a Brazilian. I look fantastic, I can tell you. I would also like to enter one of the events over there, the favourite one being the walking. Because what's going on in that? That's not really doing that anyway. It's nearly running. And is there any point in doing that? If someone's coming after you with a red-hot poker, you run as fast as you can. You don't do that ridiculous wiggle that they do with their hips when it looks like they're trying to cross a road of cars coming quicker than they thought, and it looks like they're trying to get out of the way.
Jenny challenge.
Two looks like.
Yes, look like. You see, look like. Yes. You take the subject. There are 21 seconds still available. My preparations for Rio 2016 starting now.
My preparations for Rio 2016 include learning Portuguese. I'm going to enter as an over 50 female swimmer in the swimming and chat competition. We'll get in the water whenever we feel like it. Swim for as long as we want. Get out, have a chat, go for a nice latte.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Jenny Eclair. And in fact, at the end of the round, she's the only one to have scored any points. From Kevin Eldon, will you begin the next round? The subject is surfing. Will you talk on it for 60 seconds if you can, starting now?
Everybody's surfing now, and they're also learning how Come on the Safari with Me. Go, I think, the lyrics of a Beach Boys song, which is about surfing, like most of their tunes. Me, I can't see the attraction of standing atop a massive wave about to be thrust onto a beach and smashed to pieces, while underneath there might be a great white scar.
Oh, they're disappointed you were going so well. Jenny, you challenged first, yes?
It was deviation from the word shark.
It was. There is an undersea creature called a skark. But, yes, it's related to the shark, but very distantly.
The killer skark.
Killer skark.
A killer skark. No, we're not going to give it to you.
I'm
38
butchering some
seconds are still
lyrics.
available for you, Jenny. You've got another point. And the subject is surfing, starting now.
You don't have to even get wet to surf these.
Tony challenge.
Are we allowed split infinitives?
As long as you keep going without hesitation, repetition, or deviation, yes. It's not good grammar, but this show is not about good grammar. It's about the other senses.
I just wanted Jenny to up her game a bit. That's
Do you know what? And I'm a lady novelist. I don't know what a split infinitive is.
to even go is one.
You know, it's to
basically.
boldly go.
To boldly
That
go is
wonderful
the
one
most
from that television.
Yeah.
It's to go boldly.
Oh.
And then it's much better emphasis to go boldly. But to boldly go, it takes away from the quality of what you're trying to say.
But I'm still winning, aren't I?
Oh, yeah.
Can I just say, if anybody tuned in during that moment, I don't think there were any doubt that they were on Radio 4.
Tony, I gave you a bonus point. Jenny, we were interrupted. You've got the subject of 35 seconds still available. Surfing, starting now.
Surfing the internet is much easier than driving all the way down to Cornwall in a camper van trying to squeeze into a wetsuit, accidentally showing your wobbly pink bottom to a crying child. Do you know what, though? I do despise some of the things that I surf on that web.
Tony challenge.
Well, actually, I thought she was going to repeat on the internet, and she didn't. She got out of it, I think. She wriggled out of it. Didn't
She got out of it, but you haven't had her for what she did do, which was hesitate. But it's too late now.
I should have said that, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you should have done, yes.
Yeah.
So, Jenny, was an incorrect challenge. You've still got the subject. 15 seconds. Surfing, starting now.
You need a surfboard. You can't muck about.
Alun challenge.
Deviation. You do not need a surfboard for surfing. I have a computer.
You can't surf on a computer.
You
unless-
can.
You'd break it.
Oh, yes, of course. I'm not so computer literate. People do talk about surfing the internet, don't
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about before, Nicholas.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm catching up. I'm a different generation, Jenny. Forget that. Alan, correct challenge. You've got the
Really?
subject. Yes. 11 seconds surfing with you starting now.
I love surfing. It's one of my key pleasures in life. The number of times I grab my surfboard and my wetsuit and my camp...
Jenny, challenge.
He's copying me. He's hesitating. He's all over the place.
Which challenge do you
I'd
want?
like to go for hesitating.
hesitation, definitely, Jenny, so you should worry that you lost it, but you get it back again, and you've got him with 2 seconds to go. On surfing, starting now.
Hawaii is a really good place to go surfing.
So Jenny Eclair was again speaking as a whistle went in the extra point. Alun Cochrane, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is UFOs. I don't know whether it's something you know a lot about, but we'd like to hear from you on the subject starting now.
I'm glad you've asked me about UFOs, Nicholas, because it's one of my key interests. Along with surfing, I'm very interested in the world of UFOs. They're commonly known as unidentified flying objects, and with my tawdry and upsetting stand-up comedy career, I have witnessed many UFOs. They've later been identified flying objects, such as ashtrays, tomatoes.
Tony Janet.
Repetition of objects, flying objects.
That's flying objects. You
Of
mentioned
course,
it
it's
before.
not on the cards.
Yes.
Just UFOs.
Yes.
That's a great challenge.
Thank you. 30 years in the business.
Tony, correct challenge. There are 33 seconds still available. UFOs starting now.
UFOs are incredibly dangerous things. Undressed, flirty octogenarians come up to you in a party, waggling whatever they have around in your face and asking you to go upstairs with them for a short bit of hanky-panky. Terrifying that would be to anyone who was trying to get through life in a simple way without having diversions of a dangerous nature, which, let's face it, is what most of us as British people are.
Well, that's an unconventional way to take UFOs, but it worked, Tony. And you kept going to the whistle when gained that extra point. And you're in second place now behind Jenny Eclair, who's in a strong lead. And Jenny, now it's your turn to begin. The Brontes. Tell us something about the Brontes, starting now.
The Bronte sisters lived in Haworth, Yorkshire, and wrote books in tiny handwriting, publishing under men's names, as was such as the way. Not nowadays. I can write my own books and publish under my own name, which is Jenny Eclair. My latest book is Life, Death and Vanilla Slices.
Tony, your challenge.
Well, I just wanted to stop at BBC. We can't have this kind of plugging. No, a repetition of books.
That's right, yes, she did indeed.
It was worth it.
So, Tony, a correct challenge. 43 seconds are still available. The Brontes starting now.
If we're talking about books, I've written a few, but let's talk about the Brontes instead. Anne, Charlotte, and one other which escapes my mind at the moment. The most famous.
Jenny, challenge.
Deviation from the name Emily Bronte. That was her name, not the other one.
Yeah, but he didn't actually pause or hesitate. He just said he didn't know.
Oh. Stupidity?
Yeah, lack of general knowledge.
I
but
take
just
it back. I'm sorry, Tony.
But you can play this game without any general knowledge if you want to. So, Tony, an incorrect challenge. 33 seconds are still available. The Brontes starting now.
Emily Bronte, one of my favourites. Wuthering Heights. How terrific. She used the words in such a magnificent way, beginning each paragraph with a word, obviously.
Kevin, you challenge.
Was a repetition of words?
Yes. No, word. He repeated the word.
Yes.
Right. Kevin, you've got him with 18 seconds to go. Tell us something about the Brontes, starting now.
A lot of people labour under the misapprehension that Wuthering Heights was written by Kate Bush. It's me, a Kathy, come home and circle. But in fact, it was not. It was done by one of those sisters, who indeed was not allowed to publish the novel under her correct name.
Well, that's the first time someone's broken a song in the middle of a round and managed to keep going and not be challenged. Well done, Kevin.
Is that going to cost the show any money?
Oh, yeah. Copyright.
Copyright.
It's probably not my job to worry about such things. I'm on as a guest.
I think the rendition was such that it wasn't really.
Better than the original, some would argue.
I was going to say the same thing, but I thought as chairman it would be indiscreet. But Kevin, you were speaking as a whistle when, getting that extra point. You're equal with Alun Cochrane now in third place, training Tony Hawks. Jenny's still in the lead, and Tony, we're with you to begin. And the subject now, a very heavy one. The meaning of life. Tell us something about the meaning of life in just a minute, starting now.
My grandfather once said to me, son, because he wasn't very good with generations, the extent to which you have placed the responsibility for your feelings of love and wholeness on someone else is the degree to which you will be bound to disappointment. Which was annoying, because I'd asked him what the capital of Poland was. But I suppose he was trying to explain the meaning of life to me, and I've pondered this at great length, like many of us, and I'm afraid the sad conclusion is probably that life...
Alun challenged.
I just thought it'd be an interesting cliffhanger.
So have you got
To be honest, I feel a bit bad
just
now.
a minute?
Oh, I've forgotten what it was now! We'll all have to wait.
Alun, we enjoyed the interruption.
Oh,
Give
good.
him a bonus point. But Tony was interrupted, so he keeps the subject. And there are 24 seconds, Tony. The meaning of life, starting now.
Douglas Adams, who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to Life, had an answer that it was...
Kevin challenge.
It was the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so
That's deviation.
That's deviation,
Yeah, I
isn't
made
it?
a
And
mistake.
simple wrongness of fact.
Yes.
So, Kevin, you've got in with 18 seconds to go. Tell us something about the meaning of life, starting now.
Well, of course, it's a very subjective thing, isn't it? To some people, having a huge chin, driving fast cars and being insulting to Mexicans is the meaning of life. But that's not for me. I have a slightly more erudite take on such a profound question. I think one should only be horrible to Brazilians.
So Kevin Eldon was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's crept forward. He's now in third place, one ahead of Alan Cochrane, just one behind Tony Hawks, and he's one behind Jenny Eclair. And Kevin, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is, how I keep my body looking this good. So will you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
How do you think I got a physique like this? Yes, you may well ask, ladies and gentlemen. And for everybody at home, I've just been shown my magnificent specimen to the audience here. Two people have fainted, one's been sick, but that's lustful. I get up at 5:30 every morning, go straight into the kitchen, make myself an enormous plate of sausages, scoff the lot, then go back to Kip. I stay there for about 12 hours. Then I raise my...
Yeah, they all was because they wanted to go on, because they loved it. And I should explain to our listeners, if they didn't already get it, he actually bared his torso and showed his ample belly to the audience, which they enjoyed, surprisingly, and wanted him to continue talking. But, Tony, you challenged.
Yes, I think he hesitated.
He did hesitate.
Yeah.
31 seconds are still available, Tony. How I keep my body looking this good, starting now.
How do I keep my body looking this good? Well, I have to tell you, it's down to drugs. If I give enough to other people, they say, boy, does your body look good. So it's money well spent in many ways. I would rather not have to go down to a gym and mindlessly spend my time on those machines which annoyingly are plugged in and using up power when we're generating that ourselves. It should be the other way around, and I would like to see a kind of eco one of those, in which we get onto treadmills and we create...
So Tony Hawks was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And with the other one in the round, he's now taken the lead, one ahead of Jenny Eclair and Alan Cochrane. Would you begin the next round? The subject is Victorian Inventions. Tell us something about those in this game, starting now.
Victorian Inventions is one of my many pursuits. I find it extremely fascinating, the number of things the Victorians came up with, including Morse code, the iPad, although that was some...
Jenny Chance.
They didn't come up with the iPad.
They
The
did.
iPad came up much later. Why?
They did, but there was just no Wi-Fi, so...
You've got 47 seconds, Jenny, starting now.
The Victorians invented loads of things, including the flushing lavatory and, interestingly, the vibrator before the iron. Not such a patriarchal society, after all. And they invented stuff like postage stamps.
Tony Challis.
Repetition of invented?
Yes.
Yes. Victorian Inventions is on the cards. Well listened, Tony. And there are 32 seconds still available. Tell us something about Victorian Inventions starting now.
It's a magnificent testimony to the reign of Queen Victoria and the brilliant people that lived during that time, that they managed to invent
Alan Challenge.
I just thought it'd be a good cliffhanger.
You've only got that challenge once more, I reckon.
I'll give you a bonus point for that gag once. I'm not going to do it again.
Right,
otherwise, it might encourage you to do it all the time.
The great cliffhanger
Tony, you were
challenge.
interrupted, and you have 22 seconds still. Victorian Inventions starting now.
In a way, we wouldn't be here because radio was one of theirs. And is it unbelievable that at the time people thought that nobody would spend time talking to each other at home over dinner because of the invention of this thing? And yet TV took over later, not invented by the Victorians, but by somebody else called Emily Brontes.
So Tony Hawk, speaking as a whistle-man, gained that extra point, and he's now taken a lead. He's 2 ahead of Jenny Eclair, and the other 2 are following just a little way behind. Jenny, we're back with you to begin. Leicester Square. Tell us something about Leicester Square in this game, starting now.
Leicester Square is an iconic address. However, what a dump. How embarrassing for the tourists to see this tawdry, rubbish place. What we need to do is introduce a thatched cottage in the middle of it, serving cream teas all day long. It could be like the Olympic opening ceremony all over again. How...
Alan Challenge.
Well, let's not do that then.
What?
The Olympic opening ceremony all over again.
But what is your challenge? Hesitation, repetition, or deviation?
All right, yeah, one of them.
Try. Alan, try cliffhanger.
You give a point to one of your competitors, which is Jenny Eclair.
Hesitation, sorry.
No, too late now. 39 seconds on Leicester Square with you, Jenny, starting now.
The streets around Leicester Square smell of urine. Now, I only crossed through there from Covent Garden to Piccadilly, so it's not me. I know that for a fact. Premieres of films are often held in Leicester Square, and that Tom Cruise, he don't half go on, shaking everyone's hands. Oh, take a picture of me on your camera phone, I'm so needy. Little short man, you see, they're all like that. I tell you what else about Leicester Square. You go there are pigeons because everybody throws down their filthy sandwich wrappers. The whole place needs hosing down. It's an absolute disgrace.
Well, Jenny Eclair going magnificently on Leicester Square, and Jenny Eclair and Tony Hawk's now equal in the lead. And Tony, it's your turn to begin. Writing a letter of apology. There are 60 seconds on that subject, as usual, starting now.
Dear Nicholas, thanks for having me round to dinner the other evening. I'm so sorry that I drank all your best wine, and it was as much a surprise to me as you that we woke up lying next to each other. This would be an example of a letter of apology. Thank goodness I've never had to write it. I instead went to Leicester Square to...
Leicester Square, I think we got there.
I'm not going to bloody Leicester Square, I'm alive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could have had him for deviation.
Deviation
the
from
two
the
of us
English
lying
language.
side by side in the morning.
slurred his words
Never
a little.
happened, and certainly not in Leicester Square.
We'll believe you.
A correct challenge. 34 seconds, writing a letter of apology, starting now.
Letters of apology are one of my key areas of interest. And
Tony Challenge.
I just fancied a cliffhanger.
yeah.
Well, I gave Alan a bonus point for that in interjection before, so maybe, to be fair, I must give it to you, Tony, now. But, Alan, you get a point because you were interrupted, and there are 29 seconds. Writing a letter of apology starting now.
I feel that I must write a letter of apology to Tony Hawks for having interrupted him based on a cliffhanger premise several times during this, but I probably won't because actually a letter of apology is a null and void item in the modern world. Surely a text of apology is more likely, although I don't have his number. We're acquaintances, not friends. Why, I could tweet an apology, but I haven't got a Twitter account because I have dignity and...
So Alan Cochrane is speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's moved forward, but he's still in third place. And we're back with Kevin Eldon to begin. Kevin, the subject now is, to be honest. That awful phrase a lot of people use, but will you talk about it starting now?
To be honest is a phrase which usually comes before a massive whopper. It's like somebody calling you friend. They usually want to tear your head off. But one of the great adversaries of mendacity was George Washington. And one day his father, Denzel, called him into his office and said, "I think that you may have chopped down my favourite cherry tree." "Yes, Peter, I did," said the little freak. And he was immediately whipped, as he should have been for being such a sneak. But I think that honesty is a very thing that politicians...
Really
blew up.
Do you think there was a hint of a hesitation?
I think there was more than a hint. So you've gone in with 22 seconds on this subject of, to be honest, starting now.
I agree with what Kevin said largely. When people say, to be honest, what's the point? It makes you think everything they've said and ever else they talk is a lie, which is ridiculous. It's the same when people say, I'm not being funny. You don't have to point that out. I could see that and hear it for myself. Thank you very much. But to be honest, I'm going to give my mobile phone number to my colleague.
So Tony Hawks was again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's now 2 points ahead of Jenny Eclair in second place. And then comes Alan Cochrane and Kevin Eldon in that order. And we're moving into the final round. Oh, you are sweet and lovely, aren't you? There we are. And let me give the situation then. Kevin Eldon, who hasn't played the game quite as much as the others, is trailing a little in fourth place, but a very strong fourth place.
How many points have I actually got, Nicholas?
Well, you're 2 behind Alan Cochrane.
Right.
And he's 3 or 4 behind Jenny Eclair, and she's 3 behind Tony Hawks as we go into the final round.
It's not about winning, though, is it?
It's definitely not about winning. It's the fun we have.
I'm having a
and
lot
the
of
contribution is more. And the points.
Yes.
Absolutely, always has been.
Yes.
Jenny, we'd like you to begin this round. The subject is staying up late. 60 seconds starting now.
I don't like staying up late. I like going, oh, sorry.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of liking.
Oh, yes, I don't like staying up late. She didn't see only use it once in that round, though, isn't she?
No, just then she said, I like and I like.
I like. Yeah. Tony, 57 seconds. Staying up late, starting now.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to stay up really late? I thought to myself one night when I was only 8 years old. Morecambe and Wise was on the TV, but I was not permitted to watch that programme. Bedtime was 7:30. What a shocker. But my dad happened to be in a tremendously good mood as he'd been promoted at work. I came running down the stairs trying... Oh, I don't want to go on with this.
New challenge.
He doesn't want to go on with it. And I see it as a civic duty of mine to take it off him.
No, it was just a natural challenge to say hesitation, and you got the subject.
I just suddenly realised how dull that story was.
We've had some dull stories in Just a Minute before,
Yeah.
And from all...
yes, that's true. Anyway, I should have kept
Alan,
going.
you have the subject. 31 seconds. Staying up late, starting now.
Staying up late is one of my key areas of interest in life. I used to do quite a lot of staying up late, going out, drinking, partying. Wow, it was fun. Now I'm more of a, shall we watch a DVD and then go to bed? And it's not quite got the allure that it once had. I don't know what late can constitute for some people. I suppose 9:30 p.m. for many of this audience. Once their carer says, OK, your medication is about to...
Kevin, you challenge.
That's deviation, isn't it?
It's deviation, because I don't think this audience, they're quite happy to stay beyond 9:30, aren't they?
No, look at their eyes. They're all buzzing out
How
of their
dare you
heads.
assume that they all want to get to bed by 9:30?
Yeah,
and they
we're
proved it.
recording
They've come
this
out
at
tonight.
midnight. This is a midnight gig, Alan.
I panicked and lashed out. I'm sorry.
And Kevin, you very cleverly got in with 1 second to go. So, Kevin, can you speak for 1 second on staying up late starting now?
Staying up late is...
So Kevin Eldon was speaking, or endeavouring to speak as a whistle win, gained that extra point, and he's finished up equal in third place with Alun Cochrane. They're both a few points behind Jenny Eclair, who was 4 points behind our leader, Tony Hawke. So, Tony, we say you are our winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Tony Hawks, Alun Cochrane, Kevin Eldon and Jenny Eclair. I thank Sharon Leonard, who helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle, great style when the 60 seconds elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience here who cheered us on our way magnificently. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in again at the same time when we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the show four exciting, talented, humorous individuals who are going to show their talent with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Charles Collingwood, and seated on my left, Pam Ayres and Miles Jupp. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me is Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score and blow her whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the recently refurbished Regal Cinema in that lovely Worcestershire town of Evesham. And we're going to begin the show with Pam Ayres. Pam, the subject in front of me is 3 things I have given up lately. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
One of the 3 things I have given up lately is sugar, because I no longer believe it to be a healthy component of a nutritious diet. If I were a chimp walking through the jungle, would I expect to see a bowl full of sugary lumps?
Charles challenge.
Sugary.
She said sugary.
I said sugary.
You did. I'm
you
sorry.
blackguard.
I wouldn't worry, Pam. An incorrect challenge gains you a point, and you keep the subject, and you have 44 seconds to continue on 3 things I've given up lately, starting now.
Lumps with a teaspoon sticking out the top. However, I might observe a honeycomb trickling with golden nectar in a tree, whereupon I might, with my long chimpanzee legs and hands, shin up said arbor and...
Charles, you've challenged.
Well, I think it's deviation as well, because we've only got 1 thing, and we're nearly finished with the minute, and we've got 3 things you're supposed to be giving up, but she also hesitated a bit.
She hesitated. I'll accept the hesitation,
Thank
Charles.
you. Thank you.
And you take over the subject. There are 26 seconds available. 3 things I have given up lately, starting now.
3 things I've given up lately are wine, cheese, and telling the truth. Because I find it extremely hard to give anything up. So therefore, I haven't actually given 3 things up lately at all. So, of course, the chances are that somebody's going to buzz in a minute and say...
And Miles has challenged you, yes.
There was some hesitation there.
Oh, do you think there was?
Yeah.
I don't think there was, but there was certainly deviation. But
There was
you didn't
some
have him for that.
Well, I'm appealing for all 3
All right.
options.
I will have the benefit of the doubt, Miles, so you come in on the subject with 10 seconds to go on 3 things I have given up lately, starting now.
I have given up 3 things recently. The first of these was alcohol, which made me feel a lot better. The second was taking part in witty repartee as part of circular emails. I object strongly to this.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Miles Jupp. So at the end of that round, Miles is in a commanding lead. He's one ahead of all the others. Charles Collingwood, will you begin the next round? We're in a cinema, of course. And the subject is the art of selling ice creams in the cinema. So will you talk on that bizarre subject in this game, if you can, starting now?
The art of selling ice creams in the cinema is one that I'm simply not good at. It must...
Pam challenged.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, Pam. You have 54 seconds. You take over the subject. You've got another point, of course. The art of selling ice creams in the cinema, starting now.
The art of selling ice creams in the cinema consists of 2 skills performed simultaneously. One is bumping up the price to preposterous levels, and the other is reducing the size of the container to a thimble. These 2 skills combined, I've now run completely out of steam.
Paul challenged. Paul, you challenged. What was your challenge?
Yes, there was a repetition of 2.
Yes, there was. Yes, indeed.
Yes, there was.
So, Paul, we're going to hear from you now, and you have a point for a correct challenge. You have 36 seconds. I don't know where you are, but... Maybe I should explain to our listeners that we're in this Regal Cinema here, where we're all perched up on a stage, but Paul suffers from vertigo a little, so we put him down at the bottom, on the same level as the audience. We can't see him, so we just know he's... It's a most bizarre way to record a show, but so far it is working. And Paul, you have a correct challenge. 36 seconds are available. The art of selling ice creams in the cinema, starting now.
The art of selling ice creams in the cinema is to find yourself a good position, ideally directly below the screen. In the middle of the cinema, people can see that you'll sell all kinds of things, raspberry, mivies, strawberry varieties of the same kind. I wonder if they still...
Pam challenge.
I thought there was a repetition of kind.
Yes, we have a kind, strawberry. Paul, did you say kind again? No, the audience say no. Okay, they're fine, Judge. So an incorrect challenge, Paul. We can't hear everything up here. 20 seconds on the art of selling ice creams in the cinema, starting now.
In the film The Smallest Show on Earth, starring Peter Sellers, one way of selling ice cream was to turn the heating up inside the cinema. This was guaranteed to have the patrons rushing towards the ice cream seller at the front, demanding all kinds of drinks and soft ices to quench the thirst that had built up in this sweating flea pit where they were watching perhaps not particularly good films, but at least they were warm. And that's what we used to say about the old days, didn't they? They used to... Oh, well, that's too used to.
Miles, you've challenged.
Hesitation or deviation or repetition or... Well, what happens is, you guys, I think, oh, that sounds like it's gone a bit wrong, but then I'm not able to immediately categorise which of the many...
I can't agree with all 3 of them, so give me a definite challenge.
Repetition, I think.
Ask the audience. All right, you got the right one.
Oh, that's a relief.
And you cleverly got in with half a second to go. So bad luck to Paul, good luck to Miles. Half a second on the art of selling ice creams in the cinema, Miles, starting now.
I always win.
Paul, your challenge?
Was that hesitation?
Yeah. Definite hesitation. Sharon didn't get the whistle in her mouth. So another point to you, Paul. You got a quarter of a second on art of selling ice creams in the cinema, starting now.
1930.
At the end of that round, Paul Merton, speaking as a whistle, gained that extra point, and he's now in the lead at the end of that particular round. Miles, I'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is what Marilyn means to me. I think we should point out to our listeners, apparently quite near here, there's a club called Marilyn. Obviously, our audience don't know because they didn't respond very much. It's obviously that kind of club. I'm sure we have a very respectable audience here. Right. What Marilyn means to me, Miles, 60 seconds, starting now.
I'm certainly aware of Marilyn, the Evesham nightclub. There isn't a hot spot in the whole of Worcestershire that I'm not incredibly familiar with, as I'm sure you all know. The last time I appeared on Just a Minute, which was in Lichfield, I was asked a question about Marilyn, and I knew nothing whatsoever about her. So luckily, since then, I've had the opportunity to mug up on the subject.
Charles.
I think opportunity is perhaps a deviation, a hesitation, just a fluff, really.
Well, deviation from languages we understand.
Correct, yes.
So, Charles, you have a correct challenge. What Marilyn means to me is the subject, and there are 43 seconds starting now.
What Marilyn means to me at this local nightclub is my career, really, because after tonight, what people don't know is I'm going to go there and take most of my clothes off and do some pole dancing Alun, and, of course, my public.
Pam, challenge.
I think it's lewd. I think the idea of a respectable gentleman from the Archers pole dancing up and down is too much for us,
Well,
Charles.
you were there for an hour last night looking, darling,
But Pam, he wasn't, strictly speaking, deviating from the rules of Just a Minute, but we enjoyed the interruption, so we give you a bonus point for what you said. Charles was interrupted, so he gets the point, and he keeps the subject. And there are 29 seconds available, Charles. What Marilyn means to me, starting now.
But to be quite honest, what Marilyn means to me is the next time in the area, I'm going to visit Marilyn. And I hope that I'm allowed to get in and that you don't have to be a member, because that would be rather annoying.
Pam, challenge.
Member, it's lewd. It was never Pam Ayres who said.
And you probably might see many members at that club. But he wasn't, strictly speaking, deviating from the rules of Just a Minute.
I was being outrageous.
No, but darling, we love the interruption.
Oh, good.
So you get a bonus point again for that. You're going to win on bonus points in this show, you know that. And Charles gets a point for him being interrupted and keeps what Marilyn means to me. 17 seconds, starting now.
17 seconds to talk about what Marilyn means to me seems quite a long time for me at this particular...
Miles, challenge.
Repetition.
Of what?
Me.
No, it's on the card. You can repeat on the card the subject or the words individually.
Na, 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 na.
Oh, right.
I know you haven't played as much as usual.
Okay, it wasn't really... He was saying me so often.
I know he was.
I thought he was giving us an egocentric performance. I mean, he might as well just sort of stand up with his clothes off, shouting me, 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 much as he... which I know he's going to be doing later to a backing track.
No, an incorrect challenge, unfortunately, Miles. So another point to you, Charles. 10 seconds. What Marilyn means to me, starting now.
Well, of course, that wonderful film star, Marilyn Monroe, is what really...
Miles, challenge.
I think you just said Runro, as if you were confusing her with Robert Rumsey.
Instead of
my speech impediment. It was Monroe.
Yeah. No. So, Miles, it was a correct challenge. You've got in with 6 seconds to go on what Marilyn means to me, starting now.
She was the star.
And Paul challenged.
Oh, well, there was a hesitation there.
It definitely
never
got started.
Can you keep the noise down? I'm trying to have a seat down here.
I know you're a long way away from us, Paul, but... Paul, the subject is what Marilyn means to me, and you have 5 seconds starting now.
What Marilyn means to me, I made a film once which was photographed by Jack Cardiff, and he sent me a photo that he took of Marilyn Monroe signed...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when again that extra point. He's now in the lead. And Paul, you begin the next round. And the subject is keeping a chimp as a pet. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
First word of advice, if they're not house-trained, don't give them a tennis racket. Don't ask me how I know this, but I do. Keeping a chimp as a pet is probably a cruel thing to do. American scientists believe that chimpanzees can be taught the English language. For example, there was an animal back in the 1970s called Washoe who amazed the inhabitants and keepers of the zoo it was in by pointing to a cup and a doll and signing the phrase which those two words included. And they thought maybe this is an example of the chimpanzee grasping the fundamental...
Pam, challenge.
It's a repetition of the word chimpanzee.
Yes.
Yes, because on the card it's chimp. Right, well, listen, Pam. Keenness, isn't it? Right. So, Pam, you've got a correct challenge. You've got in there with 28 seconds to go. Keeping a chimp as a pet, starting now.
Keeping a chimp as a pet seems a very poor idea to me, and though the young animal may be endearing, when he grows up and develops a steely glare, long fingers and enormous blooded fangs, you may laugh on the... Oh.
Paul, challenge.
Do chimps have fangs? They have teeth, don't they? But they don't have fangs.
I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Paul and say it's a correct challenge. 10 seconds ago. And if I can redress the balance, Pam, later I will and give it to you. But Paul, you got the benefit this time, and you have the subject of keeping a chimp as a pet. And 10 seconds starting now.
Deep in the Amazonian jungle, impenetrable behind the trees and the leaves, you will find a lonely chimp. He will sit there and he will say his name is Harry Watson. Don't believe him.
So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle when gained the extra point. He's now increased his lead ahead of the other three. And Pam Ayres, we're back with you to begin. The subject we'd like you to take now is the pros and cons of knitting. Try and speak on the subject. 60 seconds starting now.
I was taught to knit by my mother to the chant, needle in, wool round, slip it off. And by this means I learned all the various stitches, plain, pearl, moss, garter, Aran, fair oil, etc. I attended a wool shop in Wantage where it was possible to set aside a large quantity of wool.
Charles, challenge.
We had a repetition of wool.
Yes,
We did, yeah,
Yes,
we
you
did.
drilled. This is going to be interesting. Charles, you've got a correct challenge. You've got 32 seconds. You tell us something about the pros and cons of knitting, starting now.
May surprise you, the pros and cons of knitting where I'm concerned are all cons. I love getting my needles up.
Pam, challenge.
I thought there was a bit of a hesitation when Charles said, I love, as if he was struggling somewhat for the word.
I think he was struggling somewhat, but I don't think it was enough to interpret his hesitation.
All right, okay.
So I've given you the benefit of the doubt, Pam. I now give the benefit of the doubt to you, Charles, on this one, and say you have 25 seconds. The pros and cons of knitting, starting now.
May surprise you, I love knitting. I adore it. All winter I sit in front of the fire making gorgeous scarves and sweaters for my family. And when Christmastide comes, they're always thrilled to know that that lovely little garment...
Paul, challenge.
That's what they tell you. Every year comes Christmas time, they get some rotten old scarf from you. That's probably too tight.
Paul, I don't think he was committing any of the sins of just a minute.
Yes, but to be fair, I'm not in the same building as you, so the fact I can't even hear what anybody is saying. I'm in the pub over the road. I'm running a minicab service. In a minute, mate, in a minute. I won't say much in the next round. I've got to drop this guy off at the station. I won't be a minute.
I should explain to our audience that
He's outside, love. He's outside. He's ringing the doorbell now.
Paul?
I wish I was.
If you've only just tuned in, by the way, I should explain that we have had to separate Paul from the other three of us.
It was an ASBO.
In this it's nothing to do with hygiene. I should explain that. It's in this reconditioned cinema here. They've built a platform where we are way above the audience, looking down, almost on a level with the dress circle, actually. And Paul, who doesn't like heights, is down on the ground floor, and we can't actually see him. So we're playing just a minute by remote control. I don't know what your challenge was, Paul.
Oh, I can't remember it. I've got no change, love. I've got no change. I can't remember, Nicholas. It was a long time ago. And
I know.
Somehow you were a different level to me.
He just thought my knitting was rubbish and that it didn't fit.
That's right, yes.
I was rather insulted.
They've got the Samaritans on speed dial round your house come Christmas time.
Paul, we've loved all your interruptions and all you said, so you get bonus point for... Give him 2 bonus points. But... Charles, I don't think you were actually being devious and talking about your wonderful knitting. So, benefit of the doubt to Charles Collingwood, the pros and cons of knitting, 11 seconds starting now.
The pros and cons of knitting are something that need to be considered by everybody here tonight. There are, of course, pros for knitting and cons for knitting.
Miles' challenge.
Hesitation. He had the feeling of a man who was treading water by repeating variations on a phrase.
Yeah, I think I'll give you the benefit of the doubt this time.
Oh, wow.
Charles Collingwood's had two benefits of the doubt. 2 benefits. Pam's had 1, now Miles has got 1. And you've got 3 seconds, Miles, on the pros and cons of knitting starting now.
The pros and cons of knitting are many and varied.
Charles, who challenged before him.
He said knitting and not knitting.
That's knitting mittens. That's what it's called. It's a technical term, Charles. I'm sorry if you're not a knitter. What are you doing? I'm knitting. What's that? I'm making mittens.
I think we'll assume he was speaking as the whistle went again, so you got the point for doing that, Miles. So Miles has leapt forward, and he's still in... he's in 3rd place, actually. Alongside Pam Ayres. And just ahead of them is Charles Collingwood, and 1 or 2 points ahead of Charles is Paul Merton. And Charles Collingwood, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is playground games. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Most of us, I'm sure, have taken our children to playgrounds in the past and watched them play games in those what I sometimes consider to be quite unsafe structures. But nonetheless, we allow our little dears to come whizzing down that aluminium slide, putting our hands over our eyes in fear that the little might...
Pam, challenge.
Well, it was a repetition of putting our hands over our eyes.
Yes. Yes, a sharp challenge, but well listened. Pam, the subject is playground games, and you have 42 seconds starting now.
I never liked playing conkers, the business of threading a horse chestnut on a piece of knotted string and bashing somebody else's with it, because people always struck the back of my hand, and I forever had a large protuberance like an egg sticking up on the back of my wrist. For this reason, I preferred more innocent games such as hopscotch, always assuming that you had a piece of chalk. If not, it was very, very difficult to have to draw the squares with a piece of stone because it didn't make a very distinct mark. Thank you very much.
Paul, challenge.
Yes, it was hesitation. There was a normal...
There was hesitation, yes, and you managed to get past them there, a very, very, which usually people pick up on.
Yeah, yes, I was dithering there.
No, you weren't, darling. You were going naturally. But, Paul, the correct challenge... There are 8 seconds still available. Playground games starting now.
One particular playground game I remember with relish was one called British Bulldog.
Miles' challenge?
Repetition of 1.
Yes.
Yes. Well, listen, Miles. You have 3 seconds. Playground games is with you, starting now.
My favourite playground game is Kiss Chase. We play it in the dressing room on Just a Minute, and it's an absolutely brutal experience.
So, Miles jumped, but then speaking of the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now equal with Charles Collingwood in 2nd place, just 1 ahead of Pam Ayres, and they're trailing Paul Merton, who's still in the lead. And Miles, it's with you to begin. A lovely subject here, a local subject, asparagus. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I can always tell when I have been eating asparagus.
Charles Jones.
Well, he hesitated because he was thinking, why?
No, he was. He was waiting for the laugh. And she said, I think we all were. We were smelling it, actually. No, I think we give the benefit of the doubt on this occasion to Miles and tell him to continue with asparagus. 56 seconds starting now.
Nothing gives me more pleasure than tucking into an asparagus.
Pam challenge, yes?
Hesitation.
Oh, that was a hesitation, yes. 52 seconds are still there, Pam, on asparagus, starting now.
People put funny things on asparagus beds like seaweed and salt because of the belief that it is a coastal plant. I have a small asparagus bed myself, but
Miles, challenge.
Repetition of bed?
Yeah, it was. I couldn't help myself.
42 seconds for you, Miles, on asparagus, starting now.
I cook my own asparagus. I use boiling water, a pan, and then some heat. I put butter on it when it's ready to eat, and the whole thing is absolutely delicious. Nowhere in the world is the asparagus more delicious than in it.
Charles, challenge.
Delicious twice.
Yes, delicious
Oh,
twice.
for heavens.
Charles, you've got asparagus, and you have 30 seconds, starting now.
Just think of that pan of asparagus ready to eat up. That gorgeous butter that you place all over it as you dip your stick of asparagus in and lick it off. And the enjoyment is something that is, of course...
Pam, challenge.
I think it's lewd.
Pam, we love the interruption, so we give you a bonus point for that. But he technically wasn't disobeying the rules of just a minute. So, Charles, you get a point for interruption. 15 seconds on asparagus, starting now.
Most people have little slices of bread and butter to accompany it, which I think is delicious. But of course, you can cook it in the oven and bake it, which is sometimes delicious with cheese on.
And Pam, challenge.
It's too delicious as it is, I think.
Too delicious. Yes. So, Pam, you cleverly got in with 3 seconds to go.
Oh.
And the subject is still asparagus, starting now.
I only weed.
Miles, challenge.
She's been disgusting.
Not yet. 2 seconds on asparagus. With you, Pam, starting now.
Keeping it free of groundsel, bindweed, docks.
So Pam Ayres was speaking as the whistle went, gained the extra point, and with others in the round, she is creeping forward. She's only 1 point behind our leader, who's still Paul Merton, and she's only 1 point ahead of Charles Collingwood and Miles Jupp. It's very fair because they're all contributing so well and equally. So, Paul, we're back with you to begin. Oh, I've just had a message. It's going to be the final round. And, Paul, we are in the Regal cinema, so they decided to use this subject now, being regal. Paul, you have 60 seconds starting now.
Being regal is much easier if you are a member of the royal family to begin with. You can walk down the street and somebody says, oh, look, there's King Olaf or Queen Beryl. And immediately there's a regal aspect to your character. Passers-by will wander around and say, "Gore, you an half regal?" And I say to them, yes, I have blue blood. I can trace my ancestry all the way back to Rufus Merton, who was my father. And it's at moments like this when I look at my family tree that I realise there are aspects of monarchy sprouting all over the place. I have a great... Oh, no!
Well, Paul, you went for 36 seconds.
Yes,
and,
I should have challenged myself. I could see it coming.
You should have challenged yourself. Yeah, Charles, you challenged first. What was it?
Repetition.
Of what?
Great.
Correct challenge, Charles.
Thank you very much.
Repetition of great. 24 seconds, being regal, starting now.
Being regal is something that I'm not, and I'm rather cross because obviously I would make rather a good king, don't you feel? But I'm just going to have to accept the fact that this isn't going to be. Nonetheless, being regal would give one a certain sort of authority wherever one went. For instance...
Pam, challenge.
A repetition of 1.
Oh, yes, there was 1-1-1 there.
Well, that's what they say, the royal...
So, Pam, you cleverly got in with 6 seconds to go on being regal, starting now.
I believe in being regal at all times and making other people feel lowly and peasant-like. Here is an impersonation of the Queen.
Well, Pam Ayres brought the show to an end with a climax there, which was wonderful. And as I said earlier on, it was all very, very close. Miles Jupp, who hasn't played quite so much as the others, finished in a magnificent 4th place. No. It really was very close, because he was only 2 points behind Charles Collingwood, who was in 2nd place. Actually, what I should have said was that Miles Jupp was in 3rd place, because we have two equal leaders, utterly fair, because they have all contributed so much, but with the same number of points, we have Pam Ayres and Paul Merton, equal winners this week. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Charles Collingwood, Pam Ayres and Miles Jupp. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with such delicacy when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here who's cheered us on our way. So it remains to say, from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye, thank you, and tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in Great Britain, but throughout the world. But to welcome to the programme four exciting, talented, humorous performers who are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them. And they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Tony Hawkes and Alan Cochrane, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Kevin Eldon. Please welcome all four of them. Seated beside me is Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me keep a score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show this week with Jenny Eclair. And Jenny, the subject here is spotting a fake. Can you tell us something about that in this game starting now?
It's quite easy to spot a fake, especially when it's being sold by a shifty man down a back alley in Brixton. Sometimes the names aren't quite right. Timmy Chew, Barry Vouton. These are giveaway signs. The stitching can be all over the place. Gold necklaces turn your... I could have said neck, because neck and necklaces aren't the same, but I faltered and fell.
But then Kevin got in first with a challenge.
I think there was a hesitation there. She was going very well. I wanted a few tips there on how to avoid being ripped off. But,
Kevin, you had a correct challenge. It was a hesitation. And you get a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject. It's spotting a fake, and you have 39 seconds starting now.
I'm not very good at spotting a fake, but I'm very good at faking a spot. And what you do is you get a bit of raspberry and you place it on the end of your nose, and then you dab onto that a tiny piece of custard, and suddenly you have an ersatz carbuncle, which you can use to offend and disgust people wherever you go. As for actually spotting fakes, they're a lot more difficult. Usually when you knock them on the head, they make a clanging noise, even if they're a painting or a so-called celebrity. It's weird, isn't it? But going back to the thing about the acne, I really could go do a book about actually...
So Kevin Eldon, who hasn't played the game as much as the other three, showed his skill, kept going in spite of all kinds of strange efforts, and you kept going till the whistle went. So you gain an extra point for doing that. And at the end of that first round, Kevin, you're the only one to score. You're in a strong, commanding position. Alan Cochrane, will you begin the next round? Oh, a lovely subject. Butterflies. Tell us something about those creatures in this game, starting now.
Butterflies are beautiful, pretty creatures that fly around in the air and they spin and they twirl, and don't they look magnificent?
Jenny, challenge.
I only did it because there were 3 days. I wouldn't have done two, but three, they.
Yeah, the 3 days, yes.
Is that your rule? 3?
Yeah, a rule of 3.
Okay.
Any comedian should know that.
It's good to know.
I suppose it's the emphasis you put on them too, but they don't spin and twirl. They fly.
They do when they're drunk.
You get them drunk, do you?
Yeah. Do you want some more nectar?
Jenny, we give you the benefit of the doubt. You have the subject, butterflies, 51 seconds starting now.
My first novel was called Camberwell Beauty, which is the name of a butterfly. Other butterflies are called Cabbage Patch, White, Red Admiral, Orange Chef, Vermilion.
Alun Cochrane challenge.
I thought there was a hesitation during the list of butterflies.
Yes, towards the end, because you
Yeah.
came up with a butterfly that doesn't exist any longer.
I know, I thought that was funny.
No.
I was desperate, all right.
It's very sad. The Camberwell Beauty was one of the most wonderful butterflies this country ever had.
It's one of the best books as well.
I gave you the cue, darling. You picked it up brilliantly. Right. And so, Alan, correct challenge. 39 seconds. Butterflies starting now.
Camberwell Beauty is one of my favourite butterflies. It really is a pretty one. Most butterflies, I think, look better with a pin through them in a museum. It's strange how those flightless things look so wonderful behind a little glass case. I don't really suffer from butterflies as a performer. It's a phrase used to indicate nervousness. I get moths. I don't know what that means, really, but it sounded funny, so I thought I'll say it. Butterflies are...
Tony Hawk's challenge.
Well, I think he finally hesitated there at the,
Finally
at the hurdle.
hesitated, came to a full stop.
Oh,
Which
right.
is hesitation in this game, yes.
Yeah.
So, Tony, correct challenge. 9 seconds are still available. You tell us something about butterflies starting now.
I think there was a programme on the TV in the 70s called Butterflies. Wendy Craig may have been in it. Carla Lane wrote it. It went, "Love is like a butterfly." And we used to watch it in my family when I was...
So Tony Hawks was then speaking as a whistle when gained an extra point for doing so. And he's equal in the lead with Kevin, Eldon there. They both got 2 each now. And Kevin, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, a rather heavy subject. But it's the Industrial Revolution. Can you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
One of the major architects of the Industrial Revolution was Isambard Kingdom Brunel, and you never see a photograph of him without a top hat, do you? That's because that was the shape of his head. He used to actually use that headgear to disguise the deformity, which ironically he got falling into one of his own machines. I think it was a spaghetti maker. Anyway, the Industrial...
Jenny challenge.
Deviation, we didn't have spaghetti back in those days, not in the UK.
Well,
Auto-
he didn't
UK.
invent a spaghetti machine anyway.
How do you know, Nicholas? He did.
Well, not... I think it would have been recorded if he had.
He was very shy about it.
I'm sorry, something like that would have gone down into the annals of history.
He thought that was... It paled into significance with things like the steam engine. He
was
just thought-
embarrassed
He was
about it.
embarrassed about it. He gave it to the Italians. He said, "You have that."
Keep quiet about it.
You don't convince me. I'm sorry, Jenny had a correct challenge. And Jenny, the 36 seconds, you tell us something about the Industrial Revolution starting now.
When I was at school, we went on a trip to Ironbridge, home of some of the Industrial Revolution. I don't recall very much about it. All I remember is smoking on the back seat of the coach. How exciting! But there was a machine called the Spinning Jenny. And because my name is that, I was asked to sit on said contraption, which was invented by a fella called Robert Arkwright. I wrote an essay about it. Wasn't very interesting. I got a B-. There you go. But many important things happened during.
So Jenny Eclair, speaking as the whistle when, gained that extra point. And she's now in the lead, one ahead of all the others. And Tony Hawks, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, a rather frivolous subject. What makes a hippo happy? 60 seconds. Starting now.
I can't say I'm an expert on this subject. What does make a hippo happy? You look at them, miserable, aren't they, most of the time? Quite aggressive, I'm led to believe, as well. However, mud must be what does it for them, because they wallow around in it from noon till dusk for no apparent reason other than pleasure. And what seekers of this apple thing they are. I'm surprised no one buzzed there.
Jenny, you challenge first.
Well, he left a gap for us
Yeah,
to...
yes, that's right.
Yeah, there's a
Did
hesitation.
anyone know what I said there? I didn't say anything. I just said sounds and no one buzzed.
What I did like was that apparently the hippos like mud from noon till dusk. I just wonder what they're doing on their morning.
You should have buzzed.
I should have,
You
yeah.
should have buzzed me on that.
Well, there's one thing that makes a hippo happy is a female hippo, isn't it? And vice versa.
Are you doing the answers now? Has there been a change?
I just thought it was a
Is this how the game's
statement. Well, you can use it if you like. I've just thrown it out as an
Excellent. I'll have it.
It may have lost some of its
But
impact.
it's not your
now.
turn, it's Jenny. She got a correct challenge. 28 seconds, Jenny. What makes a hippo happy? Stopping now.
Hippos are very tactile creatures. They like to be scratched behind the ear, tickled on the tummy, though the ageing female hippo, as she gets older, would rather be left alone in her own mud hole with no stupid teenage hippos splashing idiotically around. Just give the woman a break. Compliment her on her magnificent yawning jawline.
Tony, challenge.
Can you call a hippo a woman? You said leave
Never
the
call a
woman
woman a
alone.
hippo.
You said, well, exactly. You
It works that way round. You can call a hippo a woman. You can't call a woman a hippo.
So unfair, isn't it? No, she sort of said, leave the woman alone. And there's no women in the story. There were hippos in it. So
Well, she had
deviation.
established that it was a female hippo.
Yeah, but
she
can
used the
you
word
call...
lady
My
instead of
point
fe-
is, Nicholas, and I'm
What's it?
sorry to snap, my point is, can you call a female hippo a woman?
No.
Thank you. I think I've probably got the point.
There's a female hippo in the audience there, but... Well, someone piped up.
Someone piped up.
So what is your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
Deviation. There was no...
Cow.
A female hippo is
It's a
called
cow.
cow.
It's called a cow.
But I do also think that we should give our female animals a status of woman. The woman pig.
No, darling, no, I think you're right. I think you all justified what your arguments are, and Tony, you get the
Thank
final
you.
judgment.
Thank you very much. Means a lot. And it's great to have this subject back.
Well, you've only got 3 seconds on it, so you're all right. What makes a hippo happy? 3 seconds, starting now.
A box set of EastEnders would always go down.
Alan challenge.
No, they don't like that. I have it on really good authority that what makes a hippo happy is another hippo of the opposite sex. I heard that.
Yeah, but you actually haven't started, Alan, so you've got in with half a second to go.
Well, I hope I can...
your correct challenge, you could repeat that if you wanted to, I suppose, because you haven't said it within the round yet, and you start now.
A female hippo is...
So the hippopotamus kept everybody busy and entertained, and at the end of that round, Alan Cochrane, speaker's whistle, went and getting an extra point, and they've all got 3 apiece, except for Kevin, who's only got 2, but it's all,
Don't patronise me.
The points are entirely secondary to the contribution they make. And you know that Kevin's contribution is such that you warm to him, and you give an R then. There you are, Kevin.
I love you.
Jenny, it's your turn to begin. The subject is giving someone the elbow. 60 seconds, Jenny. The subject is giving someone the elbow, starting now.
I gave Nicholas Parsons the elbow years ago. This is something you can do physically or emotionally. You may give a fellow tube traveller the accidental on purpose elbow, say they've just trodden on your foot. Whoops-a-daisy. Also, if you need to get rid of a fella, give him the elbow. It wouldn't have been fantastic, actually, if instead of having to go through divorce processes, you could just give the elbow 3 times, a triple jab, elbow, 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 out, all over. No recriminations, no lawyers, nothing.
All right, Tony challenge.
There are a few no's close together.
3 no's there. No this, no that, no that. So, Tony,
Also,
you have...
I think legally it would be quite difficult if that was the rule.
Thank you for our legal advisor. Thanks, Alan. Did you? How many years did you do law for?
None, but I've spent quite a lot of time at the bar. Thank you.
Pleasure to be your straight man.
25 seconds for you, Tony, because you've got to get Johnny on her nose. Not on the nose, N-O-S-E. It's in the word no. Giving someone the elbow, Tony, and 25 seconds starting now.
Regretfully, I have to say, over the years, I've had to give the elbow to some people, and it's not enjoyable. It's a no-win situation, isn't it? They sometimes will say to you, why did you do it like that? Writing it on a bit of paper, pushing it through the door spot was not a courageous way of approaching it, Tony. However, in the end, you're not giving great news to them. They're not going to jump up and down with joy.
Jenny, challenge.
Deviation, I would jump up and down with joy if he dumped me. I'd go, hooray! It's over.
You didn't, though.
I can't get bonus points for insults, Jenny.
No, I'm sorry.
It
still hurts.
It was a good attempt to get a reaction. You got a big reaction, but I don't think it was the right one for just a minute. And so, Tony, an incorrect challenge. 1 second. Giving someone the elbow, starting now.
I'm giving someone an elbow CD.
So Tony Hawkes, the speaker of the whistle, when gained that extra point and has increased his lead. Alun, we're back with you to begin. The subject is now Captain Cook. Tell us something about that great man in this game, starting now.
As regular listeners to the show will be aware, I have many and varied interests, and Captain Cook is a historical figure, but more importantly to me, I was a keen footballer as a schoolboy, and the captain of my schoolboy team was a man called James Cook. I say a man, he was 11. That's not
Tony, challenge.
Well, that's your repetition of schoolboy, if I go back.
No, man.
And then man as well.
Yes, as well.
Sorry.
Right. 40 seconds, Tony. You've got Captain Cook starting now.
Captain Cook is now the new captain of the England cricket team, as Alistair Cook is the man in question, taking over from Andrew Strauss. No laughs there. Let's move on. Islands were named after Captain Cook. I've always wanted to have some named after me, but it hasn't happened because I'm not really adventurous enough. You need to get out there in a boat and search hard. And this is something I've failed in, and it really hurts.
Kevin, challenge.
Is this deviation?
What?
Because he seems to have gone off the actual subject of Cook and is going on about himself sailing around the world. Who cares?
I think that's a pretty good interpretation, yes.
Slightly harsh one, but a good one.
I'm sorry, I just
harsh,
carried
but he
away.
hasn't played the game as often as you, Tony, so I will give him the benefit of the doubt. So 10 seconds for you, Kevin, on Captain Cook, starting now.
I understand that Captain Cook was killed in Hawaii by Hawaiians and...
Oh, Alun, challenge.
This is sad news. I used to play football with him. Just think you could have broken it a little more, Jim. It's not that long ago that I told you.
He went a long way to get his ball back, didn't he?
I thought I'd either do it quietly in a corner somewhere or at the pub or on national radio.
Alun, we enjoyed your interruption. We give you a bonus point for that. And you keep the subject. You weren't interrupted, Kevin, and you're still on. Captain Cook, 5 seconds, starting now.
He died because the Hawaiians were wearing grass skirts.
Oh, Jenny, challenge.
Oh, so sorry, Kevin, but 2 Hawaiians.
2 Hawaiians, yes. And Jenny, you've got...
The pizza's come.
2 seconds, Jenny, on Captain Cook, starting now.
He supposedly discovered Australia, but is that true? Not sure.
So Jenny Eclair was speaking as the whistle when gained an extra point. She's 1 point behind our leader, Tony Hawkes, and the other 2 are equal, 1 point behind her. And Tony, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now is a healthy start to the day. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
For many years, I used to breakfast like a king, lunch like a lord, and dine like a pauper, until the rental of the costumes really started to get to me. And I had to abandon it completely. For a while, I used to go to work on an egg, but the yellow stains were embarrassing, and my boss didn't believe the story that I'd come up with. So now I have a more conventional attempt to begin each day with muesli, spelt in the conventional way. And I have a collection of things I chop on top of it to make it more interesting. Fruit. That's all.
I thought that was wonderful, but I thought there was a hesitation after fruit.
There was, and a full stop.
I mean, he said fruit, that's all. That seems like a hesitation.
And he was thinking about it, and he came to a halt. 17 seconds, Alan, we're with you now on a healthy start to the day, starting now.
The healthy start to the day that I enjoy, my alarm goes off and I spring out of bed like a salmon and immediately begin my intensive yoga workout and then pop down...
Tony Challenge.
I want him to explain how you can spring out of bed like a salmon when you're a human. Because, you know, it's not an analogy that works for a human.
It doesn't work very well, but it's an analogy. I mean, salmons do spring like that out of the water.
They leap out of the river.
They leap out of the river.
Well, what have you got? Have you got a high ceiling in that room then? Or...
Oh, okay. I don't like to brag, but...
I mean, he might actually have a waterbed or something.
Yeah. Listen, I've been a fool. I can see how this analogy is excellent.
Yeah. I think it's very good, but at least it's apt. Right, 6 seconds, Alan. We've got an incorrect challenger. A healthy start to the day, starting now.
After leaping like a lamb out of my waterbed, I enjoy a brisk 90 minutes of Iyengar yoga.
So Alan Cochrane was then speaker as a whistle-weighing gained that extra point, and he's now taken the lead, 1 ahead of Tony Hawks and 3 ahead of the other 2. Alan, it's your turn to begin. The subject now, the ideal flatmate. Will you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
The ideal flatmate is perhaps one of the most ill-advised compliments I've ever paid my wife. I think the ideal flatmate is a person that...
Jenny, you challenge first.
It's a real shame because it was very funny,
yes.
but he hesitated badly.
So there are 48 seconds still available. Jenny, you tell us something about the ideal flatmate starting now.
An ideal flatmate is someone with a minor bowel disorder because then they know the importance of buying lavatory roll. Get a fat one.
Tony Challenge.
There are other disadvantages.
I don't think he's the ideal flatmate.
No,
really.
exactly.
No. This sounds like the voice of experience from Tony. Might be worth letting him have it. Yeah.
I see her reasoning, but I think it's debatable. So I gave Jenny the benefit of the doubt last time on the subject. I give you the benefit of the doubt this time, Tony.
Thank you.
And say the
This flat's got 2 lavatories in my head.
You keep your lavatories in your head.
Take it away, Tony, take it away.
Tony, 40 seconds available. The ideal flatmate starting now.
The ideal flatmate probably doesn't exist. It might be like the ideal partner. We all search for it in our lives, and can we find it? No, we will...
Jenny Challenge.
Well, he keeps calling people it. I can't find the the partner. I don't think you should refer to people as it. That's probably why you don't have a partner.
Don't it go on?
I mean, as long as he keeps going without hesitation, repetition, or deviation.
I was just trying to help him with his relationships.
Tony, incorrect challenge. 29 seconds, the ideal flatmate starting now.
Many years ago, I was with my mate Tim. We were looking for somewhere to live together, and I got to this door and I said, "This is the ideal flat." Mate. And he agreed with me. Inside we went, we looked round, it had 2 toilets in the person's head who ran the place, and we both went. I had a bowel condition at the time, so it was ideal that they were both parallel. Tim used one, I used the other.
Jenny Challenge.
2 boths. Both and both.
Yes, right. And 9 seconds for you, Jenny, on the ideal flatmate starting now.
A non-drinking safe driver who can take you to parties and then take you... Oh, no! Oh, God.
Yeah. So, Alan, you've gone in?
Well, I thought there was hesitation, but also I thought it would be good to intervene before Jenny got upset. So what she was imagining, it seemed like there was some horror show.
Take twice.
We said take twice.
Oh,
With 9 seconds left.
Fair enough.
It's a novice mistake.
I'll have it.
You've got it.
I've got it, yeah.
And there's 2 seconds to go only.
Yeah.
The ideal flatmate, Alun, starting now.
2 seconds is not enough to describe my ideal flatmate.
So Alan Cochrane, speakers of whistle when gained that extra point. And he's equal now with Tony Hawks in the lead, and we're into the final round. Kevin Eldon, who hasn't played the game as much as the others, but his contribution is tremendous.
God bless you, Governor.
And he's in a very strong 4th place. But he's only 3 points behind Jenny Eclair, who's only 2 points behind our joint leaders, Alan Cochrane and Tony Hawks. And Kevin, it's back with you to begin. And the subject is how to save electricity. 60 seconds, starting now.
There are many ways to save electricity. I use the sun. What I do is I go around collecting discarded organs from Mr. Murdoch's crumbling empire. Then I set fire to them and I warm myself as lies and gossip burns before me. Americans could save a lot of electricity by not frying the convicts that they find guilty of various crimes. Instead, they should put them in an enormous hamster's wheel which is connected to a dynamo which is in turn linked to the national grid. That way, they would be contributing to the amount of power that was going out. This would be very good because there would also be a kind of punishment happening whereby this person would be spending the whole of their life doing a boring, tedious task, which is much better than curtailing their existence. Surely it should be a thing that people should realise that this is a far better thing. Curtailing of such a thing would be the best that you could possibly do, isn't it? Now, the other way...
So Kevin Eldon kept going with extraordinary rubbish.
Yes.
Until the whistle should have gone, because I stopped Sharon blowing the whistle then.
18 times.
No. You went for 1 minute and 5 seconds, actually. And you gain a point for not being interrupted, and a point for speaking when the whistle should have gone, and you still finished in 4th place. But you are only 1 point behind Jenny Eclair, and you're only 3 points behind our joint winners, Alan Cochrane and Tony Hawks. A round of applause for them.
Don't you remember that very ancient just-a-minute rule, though? If somebody goes over the minute and actually does 1 minute and 5, they get a bonus of 10 points and therefore goes into the lead.
Well, that's one of the rules you just made up, isn't it, Jenny? I've twisted the rules a bit today with Kevin at the end there, so we brought him up from nowhere to a very strong... So let me now say thank you to these 4 or 5 players of the game. And we thank Sharon Leonard for helping with the score, blowing the whistle so elegantly. And we thank our audience here. Thank Claire Jones, who is our producer. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. So from all of us here and the audience and me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. And don't forget, tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute.